Hey, good morning, everyone. Hello, madungog na ko, class.
Morning, sir.
Okay. So, for today, ano na ba? Chapter 9. Chapter 9 na ta. So, isa ang mag-report ron sila Neri. Pwede na mo
Yes, sir.
pwede na mo mag-start pa. Okay, pwede na mo mag-start. Iga.
Makita, sir.
Yes po.
So, hi guys. Good morning. I'm Chris Bineri Jr. and this is my report. So, tulungan go, guys.
Tingnan na raw.
Sige, sir. So, our report is formal report, the outline and introduction. So, chapter goals, understand the importance of an outline. Number 2 is understand how to choose a letter as a title to invite read. And number 3, know what constitutes a proper introduction. So, reports are the most frequent writing situation for most technical professionals, and they are appropriate to propose and conclude a project, request a capital expenditure, a process change, a personnel change, and so forth. It is a purpose of this chapter to discuss how to start a report. It addresses the outline, title, and introduction. Subsequent chapters address other portions of a formal report. So, outline. The decision on whether to write a report or not is made by your boss or client. The very first step in technical writing is to decide to write a document on some aspect of your works. So after the decision to write a report, the next step is to decide on readership. Who do you want to share result with? Certainly the person, department, division, or company that paid for your study deserves to be listed as primary reader. But there may be others who are also interested. This should be noted. And next, think about the reason for writing the report. Whatever the purpose or purposes, state them in the outline and focus on them in the outline. So sample outline, title. At this time, you can start with just a preliminary working title. The exact title can be finalized later. So as you can see, sample outline, they have a title, readership, and purpose. Next, it is necessary to state the objective of the work. Objective, prevent fitting correction damage of the tool insert in the coming process and reduce tool replacement cost 20%. At some point, in this initial stage of drafting an outline, deciding on the types of document is also necessary. This example is a formal report that will be submitted as an article to a journal. Often, the only difference between the two is that the former may contain some proprietary information and the later may have some format conventions that are different from the accepted format of your organization. A formal report contains an introduction, a body made up of an investigation, result, and discussion, and concluding section. You could list this section heads in your outline and start to put in details. But some writing professionals prefer to start by simply listing the major points that they want to make it their reports. Next. Major points. Number 1 is spreading horizon in a problem. Number 2 is type of the test is not a normal test. Number 3 is range of materials and coating tested. Number 4 is provide against other metals produce low damage. And number 5 is dry film lubricants did not help. Number 6 is unique system for measuring damage. Number 7, application of results. Number 8 is no liquid lubricant allowed. Number 9 is others try to solve problems with reduced motion or oils. So these major points are not necessarily in the order that you will put them into the reports. They are reminders that you want to make these points someplace in your documents. There should be A, B, C, and maybe D heads for sections. Capital letters can be used for A heads, numbers for B heads, lowercase letter for C heads, and italics of Roman numerals or someone other's designation for D headings. So A head is A, B, C, and so forth. B head is 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So C head is A, B, C, and so forth. And D head is I and so forth. So next is this heading designation is help to visualize the sections and length of the documents. This gives you an idea of how the document may come together. Each of the subheads in the body ends up at least a paragraph and possibly as several paragraphs or several pages. This helps define each section and ensures that you discuss your work in a logical manner. When you get into the thick of writing, you may want to repeat this outlining procedure for each of the beads in the outline. So taas pa ni guys ha, wait lang. Number 12. Mali. So, in summary, an outline is a plan of strategy for writing. An outline is needed of almost all documents. Even letters can be benefit from An outline, a detailed outline will include topics for each paragraph. Use the suggested format or whatever feels right, but do not skip this step. The more detailed the outline is, the easier it is to write the document. So use the suggested format or whatever feels right, but do not skip this step. The more detailed the outline is, the easier it is to write the document. So rule is make an outline before you start to write any report. So muna siya guys, summary, then outline, formal report outline example. So they have title, something about writing, creation, readership, purpose, objective, tapos introduction, laboratory studies, tapos they have test result, discussion, and conclusion. So muna example sa outline. So title. A title is an essential part of the outline. All reports must have a title, and the outline process must be defined the title, establishing the readership and type of report. Some computer mail software also prompts you to the title a letter or note. It can help. Titles must be carefully chosen. They are essentially abstracts of documents, and if you want somebody to read a document, you must create a title that encourages a person to read it. So a title must be accurate, concise, grammatically correct, and free of jargon and acronyms. The title must reflect what the document contains. Do not make mistakes in the spelling or grammar of the title. People expect at least the title to be checked or rechecked. If it still has an error, this may brand you as a lesser person. So too long a title, the friction and wear of so as you can see, the title is long, then the title containing a typo. So, often technical reports pertain to plant equipment with strange sounding names. Try to convert the machine names for the layman, avoid jargon. Sensitometric, which is in the dictionary, is more informative. In fact, you should try to limit the words in a title to words in the dictionary. If anyone wants to find out the meaning, they can easily look it up. They decide to read or not read your reports based on the 6 or 7 words in the title. So, the new title attempts to tell the reader that there is new information in the article that may help the reader solve a coding thickness problem. So, as you can see, number A is original title, then edited effect of editor's stiffness on finite element modeling of coding. So, gi-ilis lang niya or gi-edit ang title na original So na dako ang nausab like nimubo siya or nitaas ba. The next is summary. You choose a word in a title. Wait lang, sir. Ay, napumig na. So, summary, your choice of words in a title is very important. It advertises your work and everyone knows how important advertising is. The title must accurately describe what is in the document. It must be honest. It must not be too foggy or intimidating. Titles must be just right. Give a title selection and consideration it deserves. So rule is make your title sell the document. So front matter. Most document requires some sort of front matter that identifies the document and contains background information. For example, letters have the additional salutation with the title and the address of the recipient. So, like, makita ninyo ang mga nagsulat or address kung asa siya gikan or like nagbutan siya kung kano sa gisulat or maybe kinsa ang gipadalaan like anak ba or tiyatagan sa business letter. So, some computer mail systems allow the use of letter templates that automatically record information about the document and or the recipient. So, investigation reports in many organizations are required to use a salutation format. They are informal technical documents directed to the individual or group. The reports are assigned a number to aid access from department files. At the end of the year, they are reviewed for retention or disposal for the next year. These reports often are not retained for more than 2 years. So formal technical documents and reports have long-term value and are not necessarily redirected to an individual or group. Along with the outline, a formal report requires the appropriate from matter that describes its source and reason for being. So, some research organization lists the sponsor of the research in this front matter. Articles submitted to a journal also often require a formal cover sheet. Front matter in the book includes copyright, legal requirements, dedication to a person, forward usually written by another praising the book on author. So preface written by author to say why the book was written, and table of contents listing of chapters or sections and major headings. So this is sample like materials engineering laboratory. Thanks. And if these are needed or appropriate in in a formal reports unless your particular organization wants them. Title, authors, organization, keywords, preface, forward, and table of contents are only needed on extensive documents such as thesis or book. Another important aspects of the front matter is the distribution list. In some organization standards procedure is to have the distribution list on the separate sheet of paper so that it can be detached. Every company employee who has any documents in their file returning to a product lawsuit may be asked to turn them over to the legal department. Formal reports containing a distribution list indicate every person on the list. Nowadays, electronic distribution of reports is very common. Front matter is still needed because some people will want to print out a hard copy and libraries retain hard copies. Some electronic distribution systems send reports to the team suites or to databases. Keywords are becoming more important as computer databases attain more powerful searching capabilities. Establish and or the keywords were keywords based on how you anticipate potential readers of your documents may search. So informal documents are co-authored and traditional protocol is to have the principal investigation name first in the front matter. Hopefully this protocol has passed away. If someone did not do the work, they do not deserve the credit. Technicians who perform planned work can be listed in a acknowledgement section at the end of the article. If this is the custom for the journal in which the article is published. Finally, many journals publish the mailing address of authors so that readers can write for reference. So rule, do not list a contribution a contributors or co-authors unless they did not some of the writer. So writing the introduction. The introduction is where you are state who you are, what you did, what you hope to accomplish with the report, what you are going to write about, and a few words about your result. This is not the case with most technical reports. The introduction is a sales speech for the reports. Some executives, in fact, feel that they are too busy to read entire reports, so they only read the introduction and recommendation. An executive summary is placed after the abstract, and it essentially contains abstract for each of the major sections of a report. The basic ingredients of an introduction are background. So the first is background. Circumstances that prompted the reports, including the importance of what you are writing about. Next is the purpose of report. Why you are writing the report. Objective. What you hope to achieve. Format. Brief list of report sections. Hint of conclusion or recommendation. Background. The background The background information in the introduction of a report should include the following items: the problem addressed by the report, who you are and who you are and who asked you to work on the problem. Why is the problem important? Why should the reader bother to read this? It may also be appropriate to include the chronology of event that leads to your work. If you were simply asked by someone to work on the problem, then state this. The following is an example of an introduction with inadequate information. So introduction. This is example of introduction. And the background information is inadequate and confusing. What is the relationship between other manufacturers and the authors? What is the purpose of the report? Then what is the objective of the report? Next is, what was the experiment? Adequate background in a report is shown below. So rewrite. So razor blades, there's some one example like ang kautana is what is the relationship between the manufacturers and the authors. So butan mo siya dire, like i-rewrite mo siya. Then what is the purpose of the report? So isahan mo siya dire tanan. Then next is conversely, the following are some guidelines for omitting items that should be left out of the report's background. So, never use personal names. In fact, never use personal names in a report except in a referring to listed reference or in an acknowledgement. Then never. Why? So we have been asking for this repair for 3 years, etc. and state only facts. The next is never use trade names unless the purpose of the report is to evaluate trade name products. A company of your reports may end up in anybody's hands. So never blame a person for a problem. The next is never include anything that could in any way cause litigation against you or your company, and write as if your report is to be published in a newspaper. Never experience paid. Then next is a good rule that solves all such problem is to never use personal names in a report except an reference acknowledgement. Evaluations reports involving suppliers or products should be listed as confidentially with controlled circulation. A rule of thumb to prevent problems with evaluation of suppliers and competing products is to write a documents using generic names or internal codes like brand X, brand Y, and so forth for the competing items. The next is scope. Scope as mentioned in chapter 4. Writing strategy. A writer needs to decide what will and will not be included in a document. As mentioned in chapter 4, writing strategy, a writer needs to decide what will and will not be included in a document. In the following example on the subject of printing correction, the report is not going to cover all instances where printing can occur to the in the country. The report is limited to just some aspects of this very large field. So scope statements, the laboratory printing correction tests were conducted on the variety of surface that were candidates as materials of construction for metal forming tools. And for example, the paper does not address printing of plastics, the fundamentals of printing correction or correction, nor that the models that apply to printing and so forth. Stating the scope of the work and the scope of a document essentially tells the reader what is coming. Avoid confusing the scope statement with the statement of purpose and the objective of the work. In fact, many times the scope statement can be blended with the purpose statement. Content of the scope statement is determined by the objective of the work. So rule, make it clear what your report is about. So, purpose and objective. So, purpose, intention, reason. Wait, 30 na din eh. Wait. 41. So, gamay na lang antas guys. Gamay na lang dyan Wait lang. Taas. So, purpose and objective. Purpose, intention, reason, objective, goals, deliverable, and result. Continuing with writing strategy. Chapter 4, the reason for a document must be conveyed in terms of the purpose. The state intention of the document itself and objective, the state outcome of the work reported in document. These two essential elements are required in the introduction of any formal or informal report. They may be multiple purposes and objective, but do not belabor these points. So purpose, this paper summarizes the results and conclusions of the laboratory test program. So objective, this work was commissioned by the packaging department to determine if there is a mating couple that will not be subject to printing corrosion. The current couples are very prone to printing corrosion, that printing damage and the production machines is a significant department cost. So rule, introduction must be described the scope of coverage, the purpose of the document, and the document of the reported work. So next is statement of format. Statement of format. The introduction for a report should clearly describe it, format, or the overall organization and sequence of its major sections. If you have 5 sections in a report, state what is in these 5 sections in their order of appearance within the report. So if there are additional sections that include the statements that list them, do not just tabulate the section heading in the outline. Put them into a sentence. The format statement can be deleted from the introduction if a short report has a required heading such as problem, investigation, results, summary, and conclusion. X. For example, if a 2-page reports follow the format in figure 9.3, the reader in the glance sees the organization and format. In an informal report, the format might even be described in a simple sentence such as the following are the results obtained from the test that you requested. Whatever the situation, try to give the reader an idea of what follows. Finally, in big reports, it may also be appropriate to provide a hint of the result. Hint of the result. So this is the hint of the result. This test indicated that cemented carbide is a preferred counterface in fitting-prone system. So rule is the introduction should describe the major topics or section in a report. So next, putting it together. So this section also describes a second example of developing an introduction for a formal report. You have stayed to the problem, why is it important, why you are writing, and what you want from the readers. Then you tell the reader what is in the report and the outcome, hint of the outcome. So the format, if complete, is an outline for the remainder of the document. So, wait lang guys ha. So naman Number 36. Gamay na lang guys. Na tayo mga 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 na lang ka pages. So wait lang ha. Palasa to. Okay. Formal report on Nibbler. The first step in the writing these formal reports is to establish an outline and refine the title. The Nibbler sound features, and the author may lose credibility with it. How about simulation of perforating? So this title tells the reader that the report is about a laboratory or offline device, and that it is intended to simulate the nurturing and perforating done of many products made from this tin, plastic, or paper, or wave products. So, mo din siya guys ang fading corrosion resistance of tool materials. Ay, sir, tuwas. Sir. Tuwasan na ako ni sir, gamay na lang bitaw ni sir. Mga na mong report sir. Sige sir. Okay, busy mo rong kauban ko sir. Oh, kataas. So next is As can as can be seen in the preceding example, the outline for the introduction versus you think about the body of the report. That completed introduction contains all of the basic elements and it can stand alone in presenting the reader with the 5 Ws of writing: who, what, where, when, and why. So, as you can see, the outline for the introduction is makikita nyo ang who or sino ang gumawa, or then what, so or sabak or title ba or purpose, then where, then summary. The basics elements of an introduction describes balik mo na eh. Summary. The basic elements of an introduction describes the background, purpose, contains an organization of a report, and the objectives and conclusion of your work. If the report is about hopper shims, some people on the distribution list may not know what a hopper shims is. In this case, you must define it in the introduction. Make the introduction the most readable part of the report because it, along with the conclusion and or recommendations, may be the only parts that are read by some. So additional points to keep in the mind when writing the introduction are the following. So first is write to the reader with the less technical background but do not state that you are writing down. This insults the reader. Second, put in enough history, but do not sacrifice concession, cite, reference when appropriate. Third, an introduction should be written so it can stand by itself. Fourth, state the scope of your work in the introduction. Fifth, the purpose of an investigation report is simply to represent its result. It is adequate to state this. Fifth, the objective of the study is the same as the goal of the work. It is the final outcome and value of the work. Six is the object of the report may be different than the objective of the study. It is state this. 7. The purpose of the report may be different from the purpose of the study. Kaya balik-balik ka. Then the 8, choose a title very carefully. It is the ultimate abstract of the reports. 9. Decide to distribution readership before writing anything. 10. Informal reports need background, purpose, and objective. Sometimes this can be put in one sentence. 12. Always tell a reader what is coming in the report state format at the end of the introduction. 13. Purpose is the same as intention. And the last is the introduction and conclusion recommendation may be the only part of the report that is read by manager. Write with this in mind. So, in important terms: introduction, objective, format, citation, scope, history, preface, table of contents, purpose, front cover, title, background, and forward. So, let's do the challenge. So, wala na siya class. Ano na siya. So, sir, that's all and thank you. And guys, marutol.
Thank you so much for the support, no? Mr. Nori. Kasi kita ba ni Nori?
Binete, sir.
Ano ba si Binete? Kakatulog na ba siya?
Wala ata, sir.
Ito ba?
Kay, busy mo ito, sir. Delivery, sir.
I see.
Nagtrabaho siya sa tok-tok, sir.
Okay. Sige.
Isa, salamat, sir.
Sige. Writing na sa iyahang report niyo. Lang ha? So, sa summary sa iyahang report, diba, naging siya lang to na yung siya lang to, write to the reader with a least technical background but do not state that you are writing down. So, this insults the reader. Diba? Kinahanglan man ito i-consider kung kinsa ang ito ang mga reader. Now, you have to consider kung kinsa itong pinakababa sa inyong mga reader. No, katong, for example, nagsulat ka og research paper. Now, kung nagsulat ka og research paper, probably naamang mo basaan na ang mga students, no? So, i-consider nimo to sila nga dili pa to sila howds when it comes to technical terms. Ang imong buhaton, instead of kanang mugamit ka og very deep na mga words, very deep na mga kanang technical terms, ano nimo to siya i-lessen nimo to siya ang paggamit ato. Kung mogamit manggali ka dili jud mo malikayan nga mogamit ka, you have to define it, no? Define jud nimo siya naka isa ka section nga definition of terms. So, butang nimo siya dito. Then if magsulat ko daw ka, put in enough history but do not sacrifice concision. So, diba kay kung sulat ka og report, dapat napud tay history about sa imong report, no? Pero ayaw wala nga sobra na kay ka-detail ang imong history. So, ayaw na pud na ing ana. Nagsulat na kay history ana, no? Ikuan gyapon nimo siya. I-consider gyapon nimo nga concise ang imong gipanggamit ng mga words dito og paragraphs, no? Butang lang kag at least kanang gamay background. Then, an introduction should be written so it can be stand by itself. So, ang introduction mo kay somewhat, makita na daan dito sa introduction pa lang, inigbasa sa reader sa introduction, makabalo na siya kung unsa all about ang imuhang paper, no? Biskan sa title pa lang gani dapat, ang imong title pa lang dapat kay mura na siya og kanang very short nga kanang murag isa ra siya sentence nga summary na siya sa entire nimong document. Makita na dapat dito pa lang kung unsa ang imong content, no? Pero sa introduction dadto but nga nimo siya og gamay details about sa imong report or sa imong document. Pero dapat pud ang imong introduction kay mura siya og mo introduce sa imong content sa report, no? So dapat at the end of nato siya giingon diri lang end part sa imong introduction. Kung hapit na mahuman ang imong introduction, i-introduce na nimo siya sa next part sa imong report. Mura siya og continuous kay para basa ni okay diri na mag-start na siya og discuss about sa iyahang objective sa iyahang sa iyang report, no? Then state the scope of your work in the introduction. So sa introduction pa lang kita na ba kung unsa ang mga scope sa imong report, unsa ang maadad to sa imong report, no? Then the objective of the study is the same as the goal of your work. It is final outcome and value of your work. Talang importante diri diba? Okay, na-mention ko dito niya kaganina nga kung magsulat ka og title, you have to make sure nga dili sobra kataas ang imong title o dili pod sobra kamubo ang imong title, no? Then ang imong pong selection of words sa imong title is dapat ang mga words na imong gipanggamit dito is somewhat makita lang siya sa dictionary. Ayaw paggamit og mga words nga kanang dili siya kanang kuan ba, dili siya mga jargons good kay dili mo na anak mo kunyari ma-curious ang reader kung unsa to siya about or unsa ang meaning ato nga word, maglisod na siya kay kung dili niya ma-search sa dictionary or sa kuan sa mga search materials nato. So dapat kung magsulat og title, kung naman dali kay mga jargons, ayo to siya gamita sa imong title na mangita ka og word nga similar ato. At least nagbasa sa reader, masabtan niya kung unsa ang imong title kay kung gamit ka og mga terminologies nga sa kamula ang nakasabot, si reader kung nagbasa ato wala siya nakasabot sa imong title, so dili siya mag-interest kung unsa to. Okay, kay ang title man gud dapat mo to siya ang mo capture og attention sa ato ang reader. Kay nagbasa pa lang gani sa title class kung boring na imong title, walay mobasaan sa imong kuan, sa imong document. Pero kung catchy ang imuhang title pa lang nindot ng construction, dili siya wordy, sakto lang, no mo to siya nag-ingon niya mga 7 ka words or 9 ka words ingana. Basta dili na lang isa ka paragraph ang imong title no. Grabe na pud na siya. So at least kanang sakto lang nga title. Para makita nimo tanong kung unsa all about ang imuhang kuan, unsa all about. Diba gipakita na kamo sa ako ang report dati. Title pa lang, check na ang title pa lang. Check na to, no? Kung tama kung ba ako ang title. Kung follow ba ko, katong nagbuhat ko, follow ba ko. Okay? Ang electronic smart car for appliance recognition through power signature analysis. So, sa title pa lang, makita na ninyo kung unsa all about ang imuhang design. No? Okay. Kung ande siya, nagbuhat din siya o smart plug. Makarecognize siya of appliance through power signature analysis. Kita na ninyo tanan, dira ka lang. Then, dili kay siya anak katakas. Okay, ko na to pila lang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 lang siya ka-words. No, without considering dire og kani. Kani siya kay mura man siya og kanang ining acronym ba, mura na siya acronym. Pero gi-define na ko na siya kanang i-plug, gibutang ko na siya dito definition sa baba, sa definition of terms na ko. So makita nimo ang akong mga words kay ma-search lang siya sa dictionary. Wala ko nagamit og mga words nga katong lisod na mga words nga dili masabtan. You have to consider that one. And then sa imong introduction dapat ma-introduce pod nimo all about ang imong title ug unsa ang content nimo. Mo tang nga gusto ipasabot nga. Always tell the reader what is coming in the report. State the format and end of the introduction. So, the introduction, ibutang daw nimo to siya dito. Unsa all about ang imong report. Okay, usually baya, o rabi na kaning conclusions o recommendations, mo baya dyan ang kasagaran ginabasa. So, dara, tawangan po nimo introduction, o kini. Wala na kayo mabasa kung managers, dili na kayo sila mabasa sa content dyan. Dito lang na sila mabasa sa katong important nga details. Okay. Ito lang siya, ang chapter 9.